Senator from Florida.
I was governor of Florida from January 2011 to January 2019, and we had a variety of disasters. We had 4 major hurricanes, we had wildfires, we had flooding, a variety of things. And what you find out in that role as governor is you find out the importance of the federal government. The FEMA is very important to disaster relief. Disaster relief is partially borne by whoever's impacted, a family or a business. Partially it's impacted by the city or county, partially by the state, and partially by the federal government. My experience with FEMA is they're hardworking individuals that work hard to try to be a good partner with our states. Last September, about 12 months ago, we had a horrible hurricane in our state, Hurricane Ian. We lost over 150 people. We had unbelievable damage. FEMA has been a partner in that hurricane relief. Just recently, about 4 weeks ago, we had another hurricane, Idalia. And again, FEMA came down and is a partner in that hurricane relief. I met with President Biden, about 3 weeks ago when he came down to tour the damage, and I talked to him about the importance of getting FEMA fully funded. There's a federal disaster relief fund that's part of FEMA, and that pays for things like debris pickup, helps individuals that have lost their homes, helps our small businesses, a variety of things like that. Right now, this thing is getting low on funds. I checked on September 11th, it's down to $2.5 billion, and they project by the end of this month it'll be down to $550 million. What they also told me is there's a community in every state in this country that's getting impacted by the FEMA Disaster Relief Fund. So I've been trying for months to get a vote on a bill, which is pretty common sense. Number one, you'll put funds into FEMA so they can provide help for all these communities in every state. Number two, the next thing it does is helps our farmers. Our farmers in Florida have been waiting for almost 12 months for relief from the Department of Agriculture. Historically, what the Department of Agriculture did, especially when I was governor, what they did was they would provide a block grant to the state to our farmers so the money could get out to our farmers quicker. For whatever reason, Secretary Vilsack, Secretary of Ag, has decided now that he has to have a separate legislation from Congress that gives him specific authority that he can do a block grant. It's never happened before, but whatever reason, he believes it has to happen now. That's in this bill. The Army Corps of Engineers is a key partner in beach renourishment in any state that's impacted. I know our presiding officer had wildfires, and I'm sure their beaches have had some impact. So it would also help our Army Corps of Engineers help with beach renourishment and also help our military installations after a disaster. So mine is a common sense bill. It impacts some community in every state in the country. And so what I'm asking for is a standalone vote on my bill, which is called the Federal Disaster Responsibility Act. And I hope every senator here will unanimously agree that we should do this. As if in legislative session, I ask unanimous consent that the Finance Committee be discharged from further consideration of S2721 and the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration. I further ask that Scott Rubio's substitute amendment at the desk be considered and agreed to, the bill as amended be considered read a third time, and the Senate vote on passage of the bill as amended with a 60-vote affirmative threshold required for passage of the bill. Finally, if passed, the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there objection?
Mr. President.
The senator from Rhode Island.
Reserving the right to object, may I say that I appreciate that Senator Scott would like to accelerate disaster aid to his home state, but let me observe that disasters have taken place not only in Florida, but in the presiding officer's home state of Hawaii, in Vermont, in New York, and Louisiana, and other states as well. And in response to that, what President Biden did was made a request of Congress in August to pass a comprehensive emergency supplemental that includes an increase in funding for FEMA's Disaster Relief Fund. It also includes $45 million for the Department of Ag and $15 million for the Department of Interior to support more than 20,000 firefighters who are out there braving this explosion in new wildfires that are taking place across our country. This is driven by climate change. Let's be clear about that. We've had 14 named storms so far in the 2023 hurricane season. If you look back at last year, weather-related damage in the United States topped 165 billion. We've had testimony in my budget committee that in OMB, climate change will cost the federal budget $2 trillion per year. We cannot address this piecemeal, and we cannot address it only by providing disaster relief and not doing anything useful to head off these risks. Some of these are what economists call systemic risks. Systemic doesn't sound like it's a very big word, but what it means is the risk cascades out of the area where the economic harm is taking place to trash the whole economy. Just the way the 2008 mortgage meltdown didn't just trash the banks that had the bad mortgages, it took down the whole U.S. economy. That's predicted for coastal property value crash. That's predicted for a wildfire uninsurability crash. That's predicted for a carbon bubble crash. And the insurance meltdown has already begun in Florida, in Louisiana, and in Texas. So the warning signs of another 2008 scale financial crisis are already flashing red, and behind those immediate warning signs looms the collapse of Earth's basic natural operating systems that science has predicted for decades and with real precision. We need to do a lot more than just clean up. We do need to clean up the disasters, but we also need to get the pre-disaster preparation and resources in, because we know this is coming and we know it's getting worse, and we absolutely need to head off the root cause of all of this, which is fossil fuel emissions, choking our atmosphere with greenhouse gases, heating up the earth, and causing us to spin out from basic conditions of habitability of the earth that have existed for tens of thousands of years. So what we should do is pass the continuing resolution with full funding for the President's supplemental request for FEMA's disaster relief fund, for the Department of Agriculture firefighter money, for the Department of Interior firefighter money. And while we're at it, because President Zelensky was here today, I'll also add that it's really important to continue to support Ukraine. So for those reasons, I will object.
The objection is heard.
Mr. President,
Senator from Florida.
I appreciate my colleagues' concern about some of these other issues, and I think we ought to have a discussion about those and see if we can get something done. But right now, the disaster relief fund is going to be down to $550 million by the end of this month. There's a community in every state, and this fund only covers where it fits within the parameters where FEMA says that the federal government is responsible for a portion of it. But this would help a community in every state in the country. So I hope at some point we can get this passed. There's a community in every state in this country that's getting impacted by this. Thank you.